Welcome to the Tiaras, Tears and Triumphs show, a safe place for women to heal and grow, where we discover our value, share our tears as we go through the hard times, and rise up as we become empowered to meet our challenges head on. On today's show, I have a remarkable woman. Her name is Gull Khan. She is a money mindset coach who helps people to change their relationship with money by changing their mindset. She works with energy tools and helps people heal from past traumas, which are blocking the flow of abundance from coming into their lives. Although Gull has been diagnosed as being severely dyslexic, she is a trained barrister who has walked away from the corporate sector and put down her lawyer's hat to use her knowledge and skills to help people resolve their money blocks so that they can go on to live a life of abundance. She is also the author of the book, The Laws of Money, which teaches you how to use the 7 spiritual laws for wealth and abundance in your life. She is a survivor of an abusive relationship and is a great believer that life did not happen to her, but has happened for her. With first-hand experience of being financially abused, let's find out how Gull Khan turned her pain into her life's purpose. Just a caution, if you feel unsafe at any time, please stop listening. You can come back anytime you are in a safe place to listen to the rest of the podcast. Your safety is the most important thing to consider. Today's episode is proudly brought to you by the How to Increase Your Self-Worth to Increase Your Net Worth online workshop. This workshop is here to help anyone who is healing their life after being hurt, to rediscover the treasures that lie within themselves, and to help them find their feet again, to be able to move confidently in the direction of a rich and rewarding life. To find out more, to manifest an abundant life, and to sign up for the next workshop, go to Sandy's Keys to Success at sandyj.com.au. Hello, Gull. I am super excited to have you here as a featured guest today. Now, the listeners won't know that I have been following your podcast, Money Mindset with Gull Khan, for some time now, and yours is the only podcast that I follow and listen to every single episode. And the reason why is because what you teach is helping me to transform my relationship with money. So before we dive into today's interview, I just want to start off by thanking you for the work that you are doing, as it is helping me to go deeper and deeper into healing my life after the cycle of abuse that I was caught in. Now, a very big warm welcome to you, Gull. Can we start, please, by you just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing the work that you're doing now, transforming relationships with money?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Sandy, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I was really excited to be here. And thank you so much for your kind words. I'm really, really pleased that I'm helping you through my podcast. My podcast is my baby. I really love it. And the reason why I started it was because for this very reason, so I can reach out to people all over the world and who need my help, and I'm unable to be there for them because obviously there's only so much time that I have, and I can only work with so many people. At the same time, that's the same reason that I've wrote my book, so I can reach out and help other people through my lessons, through my working. And I'm still work in progress. I always say I'm not a finished product, not by a long shot. I'm a work in progress, but I can help other people on the way, help them change their lives. And I think the reason why I focus on money is because I think once you start focusing on money, I think that's a good starting point. And when you start looking at money, you think, okay, so how can I change my relationship with money? And the way I help you to look at money is you have to focus on your deepest, darkest demons, which you may not otherwise want to address or actually deal with. But because money is such a great motivation, it allows you to work on your deep inner self. And that's when the transformation comes. And money becomes a byproduct at the end. It becomes a self, it becomes a journey into yourself. And that's what helps you to transform yourself from being where you were before to where you are. And money is one thing that when I say to people, it's so easy to make. They look at me and they laugh, and I'm like, you're laughing now because you don't understand the concept behind it, and you don't understand the laws to it. Once you become familiar with the laws of money, once you become familiar with how money works, the energetically how it works, you would say the same thing. You would agree with me. The money is easy. But getting to that point of being in alignment with money is not the easy part. That's the difficult part. And most people struggle with that aspect. And unfortunately, most gurus completely ignore that and sidestep and just tell you to think positively and just say, I love money and money loves me. And you'll somehow believe the falsity. You have to get to the point when you actually do love money, but not love from the greed, need way, but from the empowered, I respect you and I want you in my life kind of way. Does that make sense? So that's
Absolutely.
the reason why I started.
Absolutely. And I think as much as you are a spiritual person, you're also a very scientific person, and you have a very logical side to you as well. So that, I think, helps to bring everything into balance. So it's not just this woo-woo kind of, money is good, money is wonderful, and expect that is going to be the thing that is going to bring money into your life if it's just that thing and that thing alone.
Yeah.
But that there are a lot of practical steps that you need to take as well in your life to clear the path for money to come to you. And as you know, this podcast is there for women who have been hurt by some form of abuse in a relationship. And I would love for you to just share a little bit about yourself, Gull, and so that the listeners have an understanding that Gull is a very real person with, you may be very educated and successful, but that hasn't been enough to protect you from being hurt yourself. And, just whatever you'd like to share that's on your heart, Gull, would be really appreciated.
Thank you, Sandy, for allowing me to go to that part of my life. I don't speak about it as often as I would like, actually, because people always ask me about money, but that is a real reason why I've actually started this journey on around mind and money. So my background is I've seen the masculine energy dominate the feminine energy, so the males over the females since I was a baby, to be honest. My father played this card with my mother. My father was very abusive towards my mother. I haven't actually mentioned that very often. The fact that I've actually seen my father physically abuse my mother as well as a child. That marriage was awful. He did not want her, but he didn't want her to leave either. So he wanted to keep her, and he got married to someone pretty because he didn't think my mother was very pretty, again, because she had dark skin. He wanted someone with light skin. But he, so he was very abusive to her. So I saw the masculine be very abusive in that respect. But my father was a self-made millionaire, and he had a lot of money. He'd probably be a billionaire in today's standard. And so my mother left him, but she had I think she had enough self-respect to walk out of that relationship when he remarried. And when he said he wanted a second wife, and he married without her permission. And so she walked out, because Islam allows men, so we're Muslims, and Islam allows the man to have up to 4 wives. Whereas at the same time, it gives the wife the full autonomy. If she does not accept the husband's second wife or whatever, then she's able to walk out and get a divorce from him too. So it's not like, females are tortured like that at all. Anyway, so my mother worked out on him, and that was the first that was the energetic imprint that was on my life, unfortunately. And I brought this up so people understand what energetic imprints are. That became an energetic imprint on my life, so that when I got older, and even though, as I said, I am a barrister here in the UK, I'm also a fully qualified solicitor with England Wales Law. So like I'm one of those rare breeds that I'm a duly qualified, both as a solicitor and a barrister, which is very, very rare. And I'm also qualified with the New York Bar Association. So I'm a New York attorney as well. So I am a lawyer qualified in 3 jurisdictions, and my background is banking finance, so I'm used to earning a high income and so forth and whatever. So nobody would think that someone like that would either go through physical or verbal or even sexual abuse. I've suffered all three. Okay, so starting off with the physical abuse, so I had an arranged marriage with my daughter's father, and he was first verbal and then he became physically abusive. And when he became physically abusive, especially when I had my daughter, she was only 8 weeks old the last time this incident occurred. That's when I think if he was physically abusive to me the way he was, I don't know if I would have the courage to step out, because you get accustomed to abuse. This is something that people don't realize. The reason why women do not walk out of abusive relationships is because they get accustomed to it, and they don't even have they're even thinking that this is wrong somehow. They somehow feel that they triggered it and they are at fault. So if they take on the blame. So with my that ex, it was because my baby was in my hand, and I was concerned that he was attacking me while the baby was with me. What if my baby got hurt, right? She could have gone out my hand and fallen down the stairs or whatnot. So I think that was a trigger which pushed me, and I called up the police, and that was the end of that marriage. So, but I didn't. Destiny had other things planned for me, or whatever. When I finally got through the divorce with him, there's financial abuse too, because I was a breadwinner, I was a main earner. He was the one who was staying at home, which was perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I still believe that females can go out and work and men can stay at home. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to be ashamed about. The only thing is, culturally, I think he began to feel that somehow he became subservient to me. So he wanted to keep his power over me, and that's came through physical abuse. He was very, I'm 5'6", and I was slim built at that time, and he was 6 foot and quite chunky and quite large. So that was physical abuse, but I think that was not as severe as what happened to me after. So once I finally divorced him, a couple of months after that, I met somebody who's known me for ages. Like, he's known me since we were younger. He fell in love with me when I was younger. I had no clue, wasn't really interested. But he came and proclaimed his undying love me and told me he loved me for 16 years. The whole world knew how much this guy loved me. His family and everybody else, and how he came to UK very recent. He was in Pakistan. The only reason why he came to UK was so he could marry me. He wanted to be with me and so forth. So it's such rubbish. Anyway, at that time, I was looking to get to know him and to see him. But again, through whatever reason, we can say a gazillion reasons now, but it was destined to be this way. Literally within a couple of months of meeting him, I was married off to him. And I'm now in my second marriage. And someone who was madly in love with me, apparently that love died within 2 weeks. No joke, within 2 weeks. He was no longer, he began to show his lack of interest in me. And slowly, that interest became abusive. So now with him, he was very adamant. He didn't want me to go out and work. He wanted me to stay at home with the family. And he said, I'll provide for you. And give credit where credit's due. He worked really hard. And he did provide for the family financially, and it got more and more and more and more. So the kids my condition was kids had to go to private schools. He was provided for that. But then what he did was his money became so toxic because he was so toxic towards me. So, everything about me, the fact that I'm beautiful, he tried to kill that off. So he killed the fact that he made me feel that I was fat, ugly, and everything under the sun, that I wasn't attractive and no man would look at me. He himself, had the thing, and this is where the sexual abuse is not just abuse when someone forces themselves on you. Sexual abuse is also the abuse to make you feel that you are so unworthy, that God, you're so ugly and so disgusting that he can't even have an erection, right? He made me feel that as a woman, I was so lacking and I was so disgusting, and especially my personal areas were so repulsive to him, he couldn't get an erection. And so he made me feel less of a woman, and the fact that which man would look at me, I'm so disgusting, right? So I haven't shared this part with a lot of people because it's very private, but I think the females here need to listen to this. All forms of abuse, and goes on all females.
Yeah.
Now,
and it's all a lie. It's all a lie.
It's a lie. It is. For someone who was, and I'm not being egotistical, I'm being very honest. When I look back, I didn't know this at the time. When I look back at school, at uni, or whatever, I was very focused on my studies. But I remember hearing this. I was one of the so-called the prettiest girls in college, whatever. And I had a lot of people interested just because I was so focused on my studies. I never paid attention to anybody who was looking at me because I was just, I was very focused on my studies. I had to get somewhere. And so I've been told all through my life that I was really attractive, and this is what he says as well.
And you are beautiful. It's it's such a lie what he was feeding you. Terrible.
But he made me feel the thing is, this is typical behavior for narcissists. So normally he would say to me, you're so beautiful. Look, I can't even get erection with you, and I can't even do this. Look, there's something wrong with me, but I can't do anything about it. And then when we would discuss it, the point would be that he's repulsed with me, and I'm ugly, and I'm fat, and I'm whatever, and I need to go and lose weight, and maybe that would help, and maybe that would make him better. Something ridiculous like that, Anyway, so this carried on, and it got worse and worse. To becoming financial abuse was when he was financially controlling. Yeah. That's something else. So he made me totally financially dependent on him, and then because he wouldn't let me go out. And then it got to the point when you get so this is what I want people to understand, Sandy, and this is going to be very important for your audience. You can have something called toxic money. Now, toxic money is when toxic money sets in, it's the money that you need to survive. You absolutely need to survive your day-to-day, for your food, for your shelter, that kind of money. But it comes from a source which is really toxic, really, really toxic. And you loathe yourself from taking money from that source. It could be a husband, as it was in my case. It could be a parent. It could be an inheritance. It could be something else. It could be welfare. Welfare can become very toxic to you as well. So you feel so much shame and embarrassment, frustration, and loathing at receiving money from this source, yet you need it to survive. That's toxic money. And you get into this vicious cycle. The more you get angry and upset and frustrated with the source of your or the supply of your money, the more you need it. So it's really, really, really toxic. So the more angry I got with myself for relying on him, the more I tried to make money from elsewhere, the more dependent I became on him. And I promise you, now everything I touch turns to gold. That's if God the Madai's touch, as I'm told now. In that time, everything I touched turned to dust. It was so bad. It doesn't matter what business I tried or what I tried. And I'm very, very smart, not intentionally. I just had to become very smart because I'm dyslexic. So I had to learn a lot more. So I would have to learn 3 times as much as everybody in the room because there was no other way I would understand the concepts, right? So, which in the long term helped me because I ended up becoming one of the smartest people in the room. I walk in, and most of the time, even till now, most of the time when I'm walking to them, I'm either the smartest or one of the smartest people in the room. So I wasn't dumb. And but I couldn't make any business work. Forget anything. I mean, from the basic things like affiliate marketing to anything imaginable, I just couldn't make it work. Why? Because it's toxic. But in hindsight, I know exactly what was going on. At that time, it made me reinforce the idea that I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm stupid. And I know also the idea that I need him to survive. Can you see?
Absolutely. Now, this is a huge concept to wrap your head around, but one that I'm sure that someone who's listening is going to just go, oh, yes, this is exactly what it is like for me. But Gull, what do I do to change that? Because that association is so strong and it's a bit of a vicious cycle. So in your book, you describe something that's called a financial thermostat, which I just absolutely love that
concept of this is what we have when it comes to money, that we have this thermostat which is preset. And because of this, so can we talk about what a toxic relationship with money, because you've got toxic relationship to money, what that financial thermostat looks like, but then also what do we do to change, or how, what can we do to change the thermostat so that we can, instead of having more bills than income, we can turn that around to have positive cash flow in our life?
Well, that's a great question, but then that's two different questions. Toxic money does not impact your financial thermostat. It just stops you receiving money from all different supplies. So I've been using the wrong word. Any money that you get is coming from is your supply. So whatever channel is giving you money, be it your husband, be it your job, be it your business, be it your father or mother, whatever it is, right? That's just your channel. Your source of supply is always divine source energy. Let's get that clear, very, very clear. Your source is always, always, always going to be divine source energy. For me, that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For you, it could be Jesus, or it could be Buddha, or it could be just universe. It doesn't really matter what term you give to divine source energy. So that's the first thing to understand. The problem we have is your toxic money will actually not, it just impacts all kinds of money. So financial thermostat is another concept we'll have to talk about separately, but it has no impact on your toxic money. Your toxic money stops that. It just stops you getting money from any other place. It just means you're stuck with where you are. And therefore, I was used to earning, over six figures in my job. So my financial thermostat was quite high. I had pushed it quite high. Yes, I will talk about a bit why it had the negative sides of it, because I hadn't fixed my thermostat. So it had a negative side. So I worked extremely hard for it. But I was used to earning six figures. That wasn't the problem. The problem was I had made money toxic because of the current channel that it was coming to me from. So this is where you have to work on. Now, how do we change that? That's $1 million question. That's something you have to sit down with somebody and work out exactly why it's toxic, what point it became toxic. And then they have to go away and have to disconnect money from that situation. And this is something that you need to do with a mentor or something else. I don't feel people can work on toxic money by themselves. I really don't. Mm-hmm. They need to speak to someone, not say me, but someone else, and they have to talk this through and say, okay, when did this become toxic? How did it become toxic? And why is it toxic? You need to work that out first, and then disconnect that situation from money. And then extend money blessings. Now, there's various tools you can use to start changing your relationship with money, because at the moment, all your relationship with money is this toxic money. So when you start adding in using the money avatar, and we can talk about the financial thermostat a bit, and we can use all these various tools to work on your money, it starts to change. But this on your own is a very, very difficult work. I find I worked on this myself. But even at that time, I was getting help. So I had energy healers that I was working with.
Yeah.
The thing is, I would analyze it myself, and I get my energy healer to work on that aspect of money, if that makes sense. Okay. So because nobody understands this money aspect the way I do, but I got somebody else to work on me energetically. This is how I break free. And I can do it for other people. I'm a very good doctor for other people, money doctor for other people. But you yourself, you can have the best surgeon in the world. They need somebody else to do surgery on them. As simple as that. Same with energy work. So I would analyze where I need to work on, and then do it. And then I have this energy worker that she's brilliant. She's more working on relationships than she does money, but she touches the money too. And then she was able to come in and help me clear some energy blocks around it too. So this has been an ongoing process, and this the work that I've been working on myself, because I understand what we need to work on, but I can't work on it myself because I'm in the situation. Therefore, the audience, whoever's listening, you need to don't go to random Reiki healers or whatever. Go specifically to a specialist who can help you around this aspect and uncover, okay, what's toxic, what's not, and disconnect from it. So in this module we cover, this is module 9 for me in my mastermind. I don't touch on toxic money when people come to work with me until they've gone through they've done the forgiveness work, they've gone through the mum story, they've gone through the dad story, they've worked out why they don't have savings, they've worked out why they have, or what's going on with debt. They worked on the financial thermostat, by the way, so income goals. They worked through all of that. They worked on the financial trauma, they worked on the goal trauma. Once we've removed all those layers, then we talk about toxic money. Because if you talk about toxic money before that, there's so many other layers that could be going on. You could be confusing that with toxic money. Again, you need a specialist to work out whether you have, for example, you think, oh, I have cancer. Yeah, well, you may not have cancer. You may have some other issues which are causing symptoms which are similar to cancer. This is if you equate anything, cancer is equivalent to toxic money. That's literally what it is. And if you do have toxic money, working on other things is not going to remove it. I'm not saying that it will. You do have to get to it, but the thing with the process is, as you would go for doctors, they don't automatically think you've got cancer. They do various tests first to determine what illness it is. And it could be it could be hidden cancer. They have to go through, try them out, and then they work out, oh, actually, this is cancer. That's pretty much what toxic money does. So most people think they don't have toxic money. They get to all through stuff, and the people who do have toxic money realize, oh, this is the reason why, and that's Jack point. I'll give an example. I had a lady work with me called Maya, lovely lady from UK, and she'd been living in Scotland for about the past 16 years. And when she came to work with me for the first 7 modules, and we had toxic money was then module 7, and we would do this then during the boot camp stage it was only a 3-month program. The first 7 modules, nothing happened for her. She worked through it diligently, nothing happened financially anyway. She goes through toxic money, floodgates open. She's sick. She goes through a really sick phase where she's really ill, crying her eyes out, doing all sorts of stuff. But 2 weeks later, lo and behold, she's back to normal. And now look at the magic. She hadn't made a single dime, not a single penny in the 2 years prior to that. And within 1 week, she made £30,000. 1 week. Okay, after toxic money. So I can tell you example after example of having this example stands out in my mind because I knew how powerful her story was, and it was just toxic money, and hers was similar to mine because she was fully financially dependent on her partner, who was financially abusing her. So does that help to explain toxic money? And we can talk about financial thermostat in a bit.
Absolutely, it really does. It's and the other thing that I was thinking of that you mentioned early on is when you were talking about abundance coming from divine source energy, and I'm interested to know how, your thoughts on what happens to faith in the midst of having your security taken away from you because of abuse.
That's a great question. I think your faith gets tested a lot, and mine did, but it only brought me closer to God. So being Muslim, we do believe that everything comes from God and everything is from God, etc. So I don't speak, anything I say is nothing going against anyone's religious beliefs, because we all faiths say the same thing, that you're all good and everything that happens for a reason, it comes from God. So when this was going on, first of all, I didn't recognize that I had all of these issues in the first place, by the way. I didn't realize that I had toxic money. I didn't realize I have all these problems. I only realized it when I separated from my ex-partner and started going into my inner life, thinking, what's going on with me? I realized I had all these money blocks and I had toxic money and whatever else. But when I left him, my faith was tested, and I remember crying. I remember that when I caught him red-handed, because I caught him red-handed as well. So for someone who wasn't able to get an erection and had kept me celibate for the last 5 years, I was literally on celibacy, thinking, okay, he's not ill, blah, blah, doesn't matter. For me to catch him red-handed and know that he was capable all that time, he was just, not the fact that I wanted to be with him, but the fact that we didn't be in that marriage, I was in that marriage partially because I thought it was my fault and to support him as well. And he'd been sleeping outside and had all these affairs and whatever. That was quite a shock. And that's when I realized I'd been sexually abused all this time. I didn't even know that, before that. Before that, it was just poor boy, poor man. I used to pray for him that he's going through this torture. And also because that's another form of abuse. He told me it was my fault. Someone did black magic on him. So he had this issue because of me, because of black magic on me. So that my husband cannot come near me. And I believed it stupidly now, but I didn't actually believe it.
Gull, we're all, guilty of that. All, that happens to all of us, where we have the wool pulled over our eyes, and we can't see the absurdity in the lies that we're being told at the time, because we want to believe, and our trust hasn't been broken or shattered at that time, because everything is still being hidden from us. We haven't seen the light of truth at the end of the day yet. So it's absolutely natural for us to believe the lies, have this kind of naive trust in our partner, because that's our standard. That's who we are. And we don't expect them to be different.
No, but it did give. I mean, that was quite the shock to see him like that. And before that, by the way, so when I found out about the fib beforehand, he was just, look, I can't get erection. I can't do this. I have erectile dysfunction as an issue. So, it's just sex texting. It's just sex texting. And I thought that was bad enough. So to catch him in the act is just next level. And then that had my faith tested. I remember going home and just praying on the mat a lot. I mean, I didn't cry in front of my kids too much. So I would cry at night, and I didn't sleep for 2 months. And now looking back hindsight, I find the situation quite funny. Catching your ex-wife or your wife at the time, catching you in the act is just quite hilarious. It's something out of the movies or something. At the time, it was really painful, and I didn't sleep for 2 months. But I didn't go away from God. I went closer to God. I asked God for strength. I asked God for help, and I asked God to make it better. I remember praying and I remember praying for him, as I'm a big believer in forgiveness. I do believe forgiveness is a path of prosperity. I remember praying for him and said, look, I forgive him, and I don't want anything bad to happen to him, but you do something good for me. I forgive him for your sake. You forgive me and give me good. So I kept asking for good from God. I kept asking, that's my constant prayer. I forgive him for your sake. And this is, again, I suppose it's taught religiously as well, and that maybe that's where it comes from, because it's very strong ingrained in me. Because I believe if someone's done something bad to me, I will pray for that person to have good, so that, what if something bad happens to him, how's that going to benefit me in any shape or form? So why not make it so that if I pray for him and good happens to him, in order for good to happen to him, God has to do 100 times good to me, because that person's already done bad to me. So he has to justify, the balance. So in order to have the balance, lots of good has to happen to come my way to balance it out, because this person's got, this bad karma. So I was praying for him constantly. And I think that allowed me to forgive him a lot quicker than I would have otherwise. So I prayed for him. I said, I'm forgiving him, whatever, you do good for me. And I kept asking strength from God. So people have two things. People can either go away from God and will go closer to God. I chose to go closer to God, and I became, I don't pray as much as at the moment, but till this day, my faith with divine energy is really, really strong. Everything I start with and everything I finish with, it finishes on God. If you notice in my teachings or any of my podcasts, I've always talked about building a relationship with God, building a relationship with divine energy. Whatever name you give to it, I don't care. That's personal. You choose whichever path you want to walk on to go towards divine energy. You can use secular terms and use the universe is fine. I'm happy with that. I use them too. But it's forming that relationship with the one supreme divine energy, which gives you strength to know that whatever's happened, wherever's here, you can come out of it. And you will come out of it stronger, and you can have and create anything you want. I think this is a concept that we forget, and this is something we don't learn from our religion, is that you are a co-creator, you are creating your life. Unfortunately, even in my religion, we're taught things happen to us because this life's a test, and you're never in control. You're never in control. God's in control, other people are in control, but you're never in control. Whereas what I've learned is, when you build this relationship with God, you become empowered, you become in control, because then you can now create whatever you want, because God's good all the time. God's never bad. it's your thoughts, your ideas, your beliefs, your actions which are creating your life. If you come into alignment with God, everything falls into place, and that's why you can create such a beautiful life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll attest to that with what Gull has said, that Gull does reference divine source energy all of the time,
All the time.
whether it's in your podcast or whether it's in your book or your workshop. And by the way, I've still got more questions. I'm not letting you get away just yet, but I do believe that you've got another workshop coming up too, which I think we'll have to put a link into the episode notes for the listeners to do that, because I've been through Gull's workshop, and I'm telling you, there is just so much amazing teaching in this 5 days. And it's not 5 full days, it's 5 1-hour sessions basically of you're not having to set aside, but it's not really setting aside, it's just investing time, and it's investing time in yourself and in your growth and your development. So if you have any look, if you're flying sky high with finance and money and everything, all is good, and you may not need to go and do Gull's workshop, although she will help you to go to the next level. So there's nothing to be lost from it. But if you need some healing done in the area of finance and money, then go and do this workshop. It's so cheap is what I'm going to say. Gull, you're basically giving it away.
Yeah, it's kept, the price is kept low on purpose so that it gives. And the reason why I want as many people as possible in the workshop is it literally is foundational work. So this isn't like some other people that teach something else and teach, and then they have something else going on in the masterminds. My mastermind, my 12-month mastermind, is based on these 5 days. So things you learn in these 5 days, you will have, if you come and work with me at deeper level in my mastermind, that's what we'll be working on. So, creating a money avatar, how to do cord cutting, and how to in specific ways, and all the strategies that I teach in those 5 days, it's foundational. And anybody who, the mastermind is not for everybody because it's financial commitment and it's a high level. And a lot of people may not be in the position to invest that kind of money financially. But if you can come to the 5 days and just learn from these 5 days and implement that, you will be in a position to come and join me in the mastermind within a few months. And then we can work at a deeper level to eliminate all the other issues. But this is to get you started.
Absolutely. And it's just a brilliant way to get started. There's also Gull's book, which I'll also include a link to that. And I have read the book cover to cover, and I'm about to go back for the second reading to underline everything. That's just, again, it's pure gold. So we talked about the loss of stability and what that can do to a person's faith, and in your experience that actually brought you closer to your faith. It may be for others. It was for me. I think that I've definitely gone through my ups and my downs with my faith journey, and there have been times where I have, I think, not turned my back on it, but I have distanced myself. And I did love what you were saying about that becoming co-creators, because I don't think that is an idea that's widely understood. And when it comes to victimhood, which is something, it's very understandable to be in a phase of being a victim when you are going through what you're going through in an abusive relationship. But the idea, once you come out of the abusive relationship, is that at some stage to let go of that victimhood and that victim mentality, because it is something that can stay with you, and you can carry through the rest of your life if you don't have an awareness that there's another choice. And this is one of the things, like, it's a biblical teaching that we have been given free will. But when you are a victim of an abusive relationship, your choices have been taken away, or you seem to have lost all choice, and you feel completely disempowered. And then it's about trying to learn how to become empowered again on the other side of that, and understanding that you actually have a choice to find that, to follow that path, to seek ways to become empowered again in your life, that you don't have to stay broken, that there is healing on the other side. And I think, Gull, it's quite apparent that you walked into a healing path when you stepped out of your relationship, and even when you were talking about your faith and the way in which that you prayed prayers of blessing your abusive ex-partner, and that was your choice. You made a conscious choice, and that was one example that I think I can illustrate now as being something which was you being a co-creator in your life, because in that moment you could have chosen to become bitter and resentful towards your abusive ex for stringing you along for 5 years, and using and abusing you in the way in which he did. But you chose to bless him instead, because I think you already had an awareness that if you did not start blessing him in that way, that you would be carrying around that bitterness and resentment, and that it would be hurting you. Do you think that's a fair thing to say, or is it?
I think so. I think it is. I think with me, faith has always. Faith hasn't always. My mother passed away when I was 21. I think my faith was heavily tested then. And but in a funny, like, looking back in hindsight now, it was in a funny way. I refused to believe God, but I prayed. So after mom passed away, and I was very, very young, and I was really angry with God at that time. And I would get up in the morning and take a shower, and then and the reason why I took a shower before praying was, it's not compulsory. The reason I did it because I don't know who else would be smoking and drinking around me, because I didn't drink. The people around me did, because I was at uni, and all sorts of people did whatever. So I would never drink or whatever. But those are my values and my standards. I didn't do it religiously. Now I do it religiously as well. There's intention behind this religious in my life. At that time, it was just my standards. I didn't do drugs, and I didn't do alcohol. I never have. So I would get up in the morning, take a shower, and pray, and then I would say to God, so the benefit from this goes to my mother. Don't give it to me, because I don't believe in you. Like that. Look, that's so funny in hindsight. Like, yeah, I don't believe you exist. I'm telling someone that if he doesn't exist, who am I talking to, right? So I would do that, but that was my way of dealing with grief at that time.
Yeah.
But over a period of time, it's just life has thrown me so many curveballs. But every single time I've got closer to God, and now I've read something from Dr. Joseph Murphy, and I love him to bits. I think he's my true mentor. From all the people that I've read, and all the people that could have been, if he was alive now, he would definitely be someone I would go and work with, definitely. But obviously, he's no longer with us. But through his books, he's my mentor. I think my strongest mentor. And I adhere to his philosophy. He was a pastor. He talks a lot of references from the Bible. The Bible speaks to me too, because it's part of my, Muslims. We believe in all of the books, all the Jews book and the Torah, and obviously the Bible too. So the Old Testament, the New Testament. So the Bible is very close to my heart, and when you reference to it, I do. It does make sense. It does talk to me, and so. He says in one of his books that God is good all the time. God's never bad. Okay. And it's our choices which through either conscious or unconscious choices we've made, which lead us down a path where we harm ourselves. So man harms himself. It's never God punishing you. It's your choices which result in where you end up. Now, whether you like to admit it or not, it is. And then you blame God for, God, why did you let this happen to me? Why did you do this to me? And God's saying, well, actually, no, I've never done this to you. I've given you free will. You've chosen to come to this path and you are here now. So we are where we are by some of our choices, whether we like to take responsibility for it or not. We are. It could be subconscious. It could be something else. Now, this is where I think that if I give you a reference to my dad, which I spoke about right at the beginning of the interview, my father was abusive to my mother. My father remarried a woman 16 years younger than my mother. My mother had 2 children, my brother and myself. My brother was 6, 7, I was 5 and 6, between 5 and 6, my brother 6 and 7. And she walked out on my father. He did not want to leave her. He wanted to keep both my mom and the second wife. He played the financial card on my mother, refused to give her a penny. My mother, being the stubborn woman that she was, walked out, made her own life, whatever she struggled with, but she made her own life. But I want you to understand that was the energetic imprint. Now, I had the energetic imprint. So a series of my choices, one or the other, they're still my choices, whether they're subconscious or conscious, but they are still my choices. I made certain choices because that imprint to come to a point back in my mid-30s, similar to hers, by being an abusive partner in a relationship, which is Irfan. So Irfan was the abusive partner now. My father made mom feel fat and ugly. Irfan made me feel fat and ugly. But Irfan never physically attacked me. That's because I think he was aware of the fact that I divorced my first partner because of physical abuse. I wasn't going to tolerate the second one, right? So I think that's the only reason why he never lifted a hand on me. Otherwise, I think that would have happened as well. But he was, so then now look at the similarities. He cheated on a girl which was 16 years younger than me. When I caught him red-handed, I walked out on him. He played the financial card because he wanted to keep both me and her. He literally said it, I don't want to leave you either. I want to, so he literally said to me, he wanted to keep me. He wanted to have me and he wanted to have her. I had 2 children. My youngest was 5 years old. I had, at that time, the similarities was striking. My mother was in mid-30s. I was in mid-30s. And the financial card was a major thing. Now, somebody could say, oh, that was destiny. No, it wasn't. It was the energetic imprint that was on me that I hadn't cleared. So I made a series of choices, albeit subconscious, to lead me down a path where I have now recreated my mother's exact life. Now, I could have sat there and cried over it, like, oh, this happened to me. Instead, I chose to get empowered. I thought, oh my goodness, with my education, like, how does a barrister end up being financially dependent on a guy who used to work for Burger King? And someone who's so stunning believes that she's, because my father made my mom believe she's fat and ugly. How does someone believe, like, looks wise, me and Irfan, there's no comparison, honestly. I'm much better looker than him any day, right? Normal sex, I wouldn't even date him. Like, he's not my type at all, short and whatever. So how does a woman who is superior in appearance believe the lies fed by this idiot that she is fat and ugly? But I did. Do you see where I'm getting at? So they were my choices, my decisions, albeit subconscious, a lot of them, which created my life. Now, if I blame God for it, at that time I did, don't get me wrong. I was like, how did this happen? But if it happened, okay, let me forgive him, blah, blah. Now that I can stand back and really fully look at my life, I'm like, okay, this is what happened. It is status quo. How do I change it? If I can create this, imagine what else I can create. And that was the empowering moment. So when my aunt said this to me, instead of feeling sad for myself, I got empowered. Like, oh my God, what else can I create? And I have.
That is an amazing realization to have, because instead of beating yourself up for where you were at that time, saying, hang on, I'm a barrister, I'm really smart, hang on, I'm really beautiful, like how did I end up here? But instead of giving yourself a hard time for it, you said, hang on, if I chose this, then what else can I choose? And you recognized in that moment that you still had power. So that's an amazing realization to have, Gull, which I hope that helps someone who's listening to see that this is possible for you too. And it is really so much about the way in which you view things as to which direction you're going to go. And when I first heard you, I've heard you say that before, Gull, about this realization that you had about, I've chosen all of these things. I chose that relationship. Okay, well, imagine what else I can choose. If I've chosen to create all of this in my life, the sky's the limit for me. I can choose anything I want and create it. And that to me is the key that unlocked the door to you becoming a thriver again in life.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It was the trigger that I needed to transform my life. Was it easy? No. I had to go deep in and face my deepest, darkest demons and work out why I had those triggers. I had to work out why I made those choices. I had to work out what led me down the path. And it wasn't an easy journey, but it was well worth taking. Within, I think a few months after that is when I got my first client. That's the end of 2017. And within 3 years, I'm now have multiple businesses, one of them in 7 figures. Actually more, there's 2 of them in 7 figures now. It's the sky's the limit in terms of what's possible for me. I live in my own dream home. My kids are back in private schools. They're having a great life. And I have all the financial freedom that I could think of, and the mental clarity and the happiness. And literally, I'm dreaming, okay, what else do I want? What else can I create? What else can I have? And that's the kind of life that I want for everybody. Everyone should be able to go out and dream and live those dreams as well.
That's what I love about you, Gull. It's about you, whatever you desire for yourself, you want exactly that for everybody else. Yeah.
I live by the golden rule. What I want for me, I want for everybody.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's, one of the things I really love about you is your generosity. And I think that, again, is another doorway that you opened up to abundance, is in your ability to claim that you have so much to be able to give. And that in itself, says you're abundant.
But you can only give what you have. And so in order for you to give to you must have. That means if I have, I'm abundant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had an absolutely amazing conversation. We've covered so much ground. Before I let you go, Gull, can you please share your links with the listeners so that they can come and find you?
Well, the best place to come and find me is in my podcast, which is Money Mindset with Gull Khan, a podcast. We're all over iTunes, Amazon, everywhere you can find us. We're actually apparently one of the top 1% podcasts in the world, apparently. So recently I found out, but come and find us, and you can, if you like listening to me, and if you keep up with my speed, then that's the place to be. Otherwise, if you are interested in the workshop that Sandy mentioned, that is a great place to start your inner journey. And that's www.abundancemindsetmakeover.com. Come and look for that. It's £27 approximately, and in Australian dollars, about twice as much, because I think you get $2 Australian for £1. So just double it, and that's what it will be in Australian dollars. And of course, if you are interested in the book and my Laws of Money book, you can come to www.lawsofmoney.com. or you can go to Amazon and we're there as well. So go and find me in Amazon. A Laws of Money book by Gull Khan, and you'll find it on Amazon too.
Fantastic. And I will pop all of those links into the episode notes. So you can pop in there too, if need be, to find Gull and to get to any of those links. And for the final question, Gull, because this is the Tiaras, Tears and Triumphs podcast, can you tell me what that title means to you as a woman?
That title to me means you are a queen. So I heard something yesterday said, if you don't feel like a princess, it's because you're a queen. You are. So be the queen in your own kingdom. You don't need a king to save you. Be empowered. Be the hero that you're looking for. We grow up as girls in these stupid storylines, like this prince comes and saves you, and entangled. You have this girl stuck in the tower and she's supposed to climb down the tower, blah blah rubbish. All of that stuff, all these stories where there's some external entity, a guy, a prince comes and saves you. And I'm of the opinion, be that queen who doesn't need saving, and be empowered in being who you are. Be the hero in your own journey. Stop being a side character. Be the hero in your journey and live your life your way. And if you need, you can save the king on the way down, by the way. So we're much more powerful. Remember in chess, the queen is much more powerful than the king. Can't do anything. We can do everything. Keep that in mind. There's a reason why in chess, the queen is the all-powered and has the moves to be able to, change the game in an instant. You be that queen. Stop looking for or waiting for a king or a prince or someone else. And remember, prince will come for a princess. You're not a princess. You're a queen. Treat yourself like that.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Gull, for being on the podcast today. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me, Sandy. It's been a pleasure. I've spoken about things that I don't normally talk about, but this gave me a platform to be able to speak through that. And that actually also allows me to do a little bit of healing on that part too. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation that I had with the amazing Gull Khan. So I'm just going to run through the top tips of today's episode, and there are quite a few, but there was so much value in this conversation. I felt it really important to just go over a lot of the tips that were there and just emphasize them for you to focus on and hopefully start implementing in your life. So number one, because money is such a great motivator, it allows you to work on your deep inner self. Number two, learning ways to make money is easy, but getting into alignment with money is the challenging part. Number three, it is important to understand that it is quite normal for women to become accustomed to abuse, and this can cause you to settle for being mistreated and staying stuck in a cycle of abuse for longer than you should. With this awareness, you can make a deliberate choice not to stay in a situation that is abusive just because it is something you have become accustomed to. Number four, it is also quite normal to take on a misguided belief that you have done something to somehow cause what has happened to you and feel a sense of blame for what is happening to you. Number five, when you are receiving money from an abusive partner, your relationship with money may become toxic. Toxic money comes from when you receive money from a source for your basic survival and you loathe yourself for taking that money from that source. Toxic money can be different sources. If you have been financially abused and end up on welfare, this can become toxic money as well. The more upset that you get with the supply of that money, the more you need it. This is so important to understand because it's important that you don't become angry for where your supply of money is coming from for your basic survival, because this has a negative relationship with the source from which your money is flowing. And this reinforces negative beliefs like thinking, I am dumb or I am stupid, and reinforcing the belief that you need that source in order to survive. The thing to understand is that the only real source is divine source energy. How it is coming to us is just a channel. Hopefully this will help you to look upon what you receive a little differently, to be able to detach from the channel of your supply when that channel is a channel you wish you did not have, and when you wish that you were receiving your supply from another channel. But remember, it all comes from the same source, divine source energy. It is good to sit down with someone and work through why money has become toxic and work out which point it became toxic for you and when it became toxic. Then you need to disconnect money from that situation and then send money blessings. If this speaks to you, then it is good to get some help to work through this with an energy healer. I am an energy healer and I would love to help you with this. For anyone who listens to this episode, there is a special half price energy healing session that you can access that we can get started by seeing if you need to do any healing with toxic relationships you may have with money. You just need to go through the episode notes and the link will be there in the episode notes for you to easily click on and book in a time to do a session with me. So, and remember, this is a forever up there, episode. So anytime that you tap into this, I will honor that offer. Okay. So the next point, when looking at different forms of abuse, sexual abuse is not only about sexual acts. It can also be in the form of withholding intimacy and telling you lies to make you feel unworthy or not beautiful or undesirable, even to the point of telling you things like no man would find you attractive. This is also a form of sexual abuse. And the next point, if you are a person of faith, there may be times on your journey where you either will lean in more to God or the higher being of your faith, or you may distance yourself from God or the higher being of your faith. Gull said a prayer when her heart was breaking from the deceit of discovering her husband had been unfaithful to her and had been lying to her and abusing her, saying that she forgave her husband for the things that he had done and that she did not wish for anything bad to happen to him, and could God or the higher being of her faith do something good for her, to forgive her and give her something good. She chose to turn her attention and energy into inviting good into her life at that point, rather than focusing on the things which had happened to her which were unjust and unfair. She chose to go closer to God, which helped her to heal much faster. The next point is, it is liberating to realize that you are a co-creator in your life. When you understand that you played a part in wherever you are at in your life, then you will understand that you have the power to create something different. This is the key to freeing yourself from staying enslaved to victimhood, which robs you of your freedom to make different choices for your life. The next point, understanding that it is not just our conscious choices that create our present experiences, but that it can also be our subconscious choices that may also be creating our present experiences, allows us to recognize that there are both things we can do consciously and reprogramming the subconscious to bring about positive changes in ourselves and in our lives. And the final point for this episode, things that happen in your past can cause an energy imprint. And this energy imprint can cause the same thing to play out in your life in your adulthood. Remember, though, that if you are capable of creating one thing, you are capable of creating another thing. And this other thing can be created with an awareness that you are worth more than what you have been tolerating to this point. Now, if you are in an abusive relationship, I encourage you to seek support. And I'll end on that note by wishing you well, and please stay safe. I send you lots of love. We all go through dark times. When we do, we often feel alone. This is a safe space for you to come and look for some light. I'm a survivor of an abusive relationship, and for a long time I had no voice because I was too scared to speak up and speak out about what was happening to me. I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel, but when I turned a corner in my life, the light started filtering through, and I left my old life behind. I am here now to help other women feel seen, heard, and valued. I'm reaching out with my light, shining on you to help you find your way out of the darkness. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. A note of encouragement: if you are struggling with your mental health, please reach out for support with some form of counselling. If you don't know where to start to find a counsellor, a good place to start is to talk with your doctor. There are also many online counselling supports available. And a word of advice: if the counsellor is not a good fit for you, try another. And if you need to, try another until you have one that is the right fit for you. Tune in again for the Tiaras, Tears and Triumphs podcast, helping women who have been hurt to heal and grow, hosted by me, Sandy J. This program provides a safe place to work on inner peace and a strong mindset, spells out how to spot the red flags, advises on ways to stay safe and work on effective safety planning, gives tips on how to look after you when things are tough, teaches empowerment strategies, acknowledges life's challenges and explores ways to meet these challenges head on, to go from surviving to rising to striving and finally to thriving. The show includes interviews with other survivors who have come out the other side, who share their stories and insights, as well as interviews with therapists and people working in support roles. I am a survivor, and I use my experience and skills to help other women like me. Please listen and be uplifted to rise in this safe space where dignity, kindness, and compassion are treasured. And don't forget, if you need some support, I am here for you. I don't want any woman to suffer alone in silence. I don't want any woman to feel oppressed and feel that there is no way out. I want you to know that you can turn a corner. I am a life change facilitator. I help women regain control over their lives. You can find me at sandyj.com.au. Hey now, can you just pause a moment before you go? Because I need you to share your light and leave a review. Can you just take a quick minute to leave a review in iTunes to let other women know This is a show they can trust. It would mean the world to me if you could help shine a light for someone who can't see the light at the end of their tunnel. I need you to do this for someone else who needs some support and encouragement. If you like this show, please subscribe and you will automatically be updated with future episodes when they are released. And please share this podcast with anyone you know who it might help. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sending you lots of love and light, and above all else, wishing you well. You are brilliant. Keep shining. Stay safe, Sandy.